Welcome to the virtual lunch. Today is Friday, January 28th, and this is virtual lunch number 488. Our guest today is Nicole O'Brien, the Chief Information Officer at Harter, Secrest, and Emery. And this is part of our continuing series on productivity automation with Zero. Hi, Nicole. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing great. I'm looking forward to our conversation, and it's a privilege to have you here. Let's just jump right in. Tell us about your background and your role at Harter, Secrest, and Emery.
Well, my background is a little non-traditional, and it's something I struggled with for a little while. When I was in high school and looking forward to college, they kept saying to me, you should be an engineer, you should be an engineer. I shook my head and said, no, they don't know me. I want to be creative. An engineer to me was behind the scenes with their head down, not interacting with people. So that just didn't appeal to me. So my undergrad was hotel restaurant management, graduated, got in the field, worked for a while. They quickly put me in front of a computer and I would write custom programs. So started scratching my head a little bit, decided to go back to school and moved to Buffalo and took a job with a defense contractor, which is now Northrop Grumman, which most people know. And over time was promoted to the role of an engineer. And I worked with people at Boeing, Royal Air Force, et cetera. So went back to school for engineering and loved it. Well, I guess they were right. This is how my brain thinks. It took off from there. So in 2002, I moved back to Rochester. I'd been living in Buffalo, and this opportunity to work in a law firm came up to work in the IT department. And I was hesitant. My experience with IT departments was they were really focused on the network. They were the network guys. That was your IT department. There was no software support. There was no help desk at that time. And they generally wanted to be behind the scenes. And then in 2018, I took the position at Harter, Secrest, and Emery as the director of IT, and actually in the last year have been promoted to CIO. So it's been interesting. I love legal IT, and a lot of that is because it changes day to day, and you get exposure to different practice groups, whether it's litigation or corporate, healthcare, trust and estates. It's always different, and there are challenges, but I've embrace them. And one of the things that I always look to do is make sure I'm running an IT team that is approachable, understands the business, and is not just implementing solutions because they think it's a good idea. You have to understand your attorneys, your paralegals, your admins, your functional groups. The biggest change has been that technology wasn't well adopted. I will say when I started, there were people that didn't have computers, attorneys that did not have computers. They had their admins answering their phones for them. They were using tape dictation. It was slow to adopt, and we didn't have iPhones. There wasn't a use of laptops. When I think about the biggest change, it's been mobility and access from anywhere. By the pandemic, we had a 3-year plan. I had been at the firm when the pandemic hit just really a year. And that year was just getting familiar and learning and getting to know people, and putting together that what I thought made sense for a 3-year plan. And when the pandemic hit, it was scratch that. Our world has changed in a lot of ways. We're not going back to what it was before. That's a positive move in many ways. But we found that people were working independently where they never did before. Attorneys were doing things that they never would have dreamed of doing because they were working from home and they had to. And so where we might have previously focused differently on different roles and said, well, the attorney doesn't need to know that, they do need to know that, and they're open to it. The other thing is they are very open to change now, which has been incredible to see. We have this electronic signature platform. Even we have the ability to work remotely. We have digital dictation. You can speak to your phone, and Zoom and Teams. You can meet with your clients remotely. You don't have to go and be with them in person. And now it's, I need this to succeed. My clients are expecting me to continue to be productive. And so I need to learn the technology. The breadth of technology that you need to know is overwhelming. Networking, virtualization, security is nonstop. And e-discovery, we talked about that a little bit as people were doing their introductions. Telephony, disaster planning is different. Those are the things that come to mind. And It changes so quickly. Probably in the beginning of my career, I could take the time to learn the technology and hold on to that for a couple of years. Now it changes so quickly, and I need to get comfortable with knowing the basics and relying on my team. I have an incredible team that I work with who's so talented, and trusting them and asking the questions, then making the decisions together. I mean, I've seen in some cases where the technology is wonderful, but I know they're not going to use it. And that's really hard to have those discussions sometimes with vendors. Your platform is wonderful, but I know from experience, you have to be able to find the solutions that are going to make a difference, be committed, and know you have to just know your users and how you're going to be successful in getting that solution adopted. To be honest, we are primarily on-prem, though cloud solutions are on our horizon, and any new solutions that we are looking for, we're adopting it if it's cloud-based. That makes the most sense for us. When I joined 3 years ago, my security officer was like, I like blue skies, I don't like the cloud. And he is embracing it and recognizing how that will free up some of our time, not having to administer those systems on-prem and apply all the updates and keep track of data and storage. And to be able to let some of that go is very attractive to us. We do have initiatives on the horizon for us to move, for example, our DMS to the cloud. That will make a big difference for my network manager, my security officer, a couple of my systems administrators. We're going to do an upgrade, for example, to a finance system. It's a substantial undertaking. We're looking forward to that, and we'll slowly creep into the cloud. Right now, we invested in infrastructure to support on-prem solutions. The timing that I joined the firm, it didn't make sense to make that move. We had just invested in storage and additional servers. And so now we're looking, okay, the next time we need to upgrade, for example, Exchange, it does not make sense to do it. It makes sense to move to the cloud. There are times where we have to consider what we're doing based on our client demand. And so we try and balance that and work with the client to understand where they're willing to let us go. I look and I say, the industries are there. It might cost us a little bit more to put the security in that we need to protect the data. But on the other side, those same clients are asking about what would you do if there was a disaster? So we need to be somewhere in the middle there. And quite often, having a cloud solution will allow us to answer those disaster recovery questions as well. Most everyone can do most of their job from outside of the office, and they proved that they can get it done. There are benefits to being in the office part of the time, whether that's a reliance on some paper, as an example, access to different resources, access to others that you work with to collaborate, the socialization piece that you miss. I really have encouraged my team. We have been coming in pretty regularly throughout the pandemic, and I felt strongly about that, to be there, to be available for those who were in, even though I would say my team could pretty much do most of our work remotely, but we need to be able to be there to support. I want the visibility of my IT department. I don't want to be, even though you can do your job 100% from home, I want them to see you. That sparks conversations. It helps with awareness and adoption and learning about each other. Can they? Yes, they can. Yes, people can do things remotely. The one area we've struggled with a little bit is our finance team. Again, because of paper and mail has been a struggle, right? So getting mail in and figuring out how to distribute that. And also, of course, balance security.
Nicole O'Brien, everybody. Thank you so much.
You.
That was great. Thanks to you, Nicole, for sharing this with us. Thanks to Xero for supporting our series on productivity automation. I hope that you all have a great weekend.